I'm Sean Madden, and welcome to my TED Talk. The last 4 years, I've seen many seniors come and go and have many different projects, and I always wondered what mine would be. I distinctly remember listening to Kurt talk to Grady James sophomore year about deconstructing and then reconstructing an entire engine of a car. I thought that was pretty cool, so I was thinking about something like that, but I wanted to answer a question that I've had for a long time. And this question that for us it's pretty common, but for others they just don't see it. And it's it's when since we live in such a bubble, we live in a affluent town, we live in the mountains, we live around pro athletes. We see things like skiing down mountains or mountain biking, dirt biking is the norm. Everybody does it. It's just what it is. Everybody has their passion, and it's crazy, but it's our crazy. And we get it. And I wanted to know why the other half thinks it's so insane. Why they don't understand what it's like to have an adrenaline rush or what it's like to be a kid growing up and all you do is ride your bike and stay outside. You're not playing video games. I wanted to know why I have such a passion for being outside and doing that, and why the others just don't get it. Um, so I wanted to kind of encompass my ideas of how I feel about mountain biking and skiing and extreme sports in general. And what I came up with were these thesis questions and research questions. So my research question is, what are the benefits of participating in extreme sports on the body and brain, and why are we drawn to them even though we pose large amounts of danger? The research question, I kind of wanted to gear towards why, like what's the drive, and then for the thesis, it's a little long, but developing a passion for action sports and being introduced, especially at a young age, can increase confidence, positive interactions with people and the world around you, and general quality of life, by giving purpose through a common interest in global community that aims to support and inspire others. In this, I was trying to think about how can I talk about my life growing up compared to other kids' lives, and how things that I've experienced and been through, how I kind of see the world through those, and how other people don't see it. So, to tell you a little story about something that inspired me, when I was 7 or 8 years old, my mom's cousin, her name's Hannah Eddy now, came down from CU Boulder with a bunch of her friends from that were pro snowboarders. And I remember sitting on the couch after they went out on a backcountry day. I remember watching them show me pictures of cliffs, and jumps, and cabins, and just the outdoors. I was so inspired. I wanted to do that forever. I wanted to push myself, and I wanted to get out and do a frankly alien world and see what it was all about. I wanted to see what they had for me. And that's kind of what I thought of when I started this. I was inspired by them. I was inspired by the idea of freedom, not being locked down. Um, and it inspired me to want to push my boundaries and see where I could go. And now, this is where I am. So, where I wanted to start was the drive. I wanted to know why we have, as humans, in this perfectly safe world, if we want it to be, why we want to push ourselves and put ourselves in risky situations. And so I figured I would go back to the beginning, something like this, where we looked a little bit different and we had much bigger problems. Our problems back then were things like this: animals and the weather and climate change and things that we had no control of. We were small, we were not particularly strong or fast, but what we did have was our brains. And we developed instincts that kept us alive, and that was pretty much all we had. We had these hormones and all these just different reactions to things that really helped us as a species and helped us thrive. Uh, so one of the biggest reactions that we have is our stress reaction, and one of the hormones that we produce is adrenaline. Adrenaline is a hormone that is produced from your adrenal glands uh, here. So when it's a response to external stress. So if your environment is making your body stress out, What happens is the brain sends signals to your adrenal glands, and then your liver starts converting glycogen to glucose. Your lungs, they start breathing better, dilates your bronchioles, and your blood pressure rises. And so, an adrenaline rush, which I'm sure many of you have had, it's kind of a out of body experience almost. You are distracted, not distracted by anything. You're just focused on whatever's going on, and it can even delay the feeling of pain. If you, I know particularly for me, if I go down hard on my bike or something, I can shoot right up, and I have a ton of energy, and I know it's coming. You can feel yourself getting ready for it. And it really is. It distracts your brain from pain and temporarily can block it out. And another crazy thing is if you guys have ever seen videos of moms lifting cars off their kids and stuff. So what happens is your body converts, or your muscles start releasing glycol, which allows your muscles to have longer and stronger contractions. So you are actually stronger when going through an adrenaline rush, which is really interesting. And especially for extreme sports, is really beneficial because when you're in such high intensity situations like skiing or biking or whatever, you really need to keep yourself focused, and things like pain and other distractions, you have to block those out to stay focused, and that is what happens. Um, Another thing that goes along with adrenaline rush is the flight or fight response, and this is really what is responsible for keeping us alive and safe through many terrible situations that we're in as early humans. So the fight or flight response happens when it's adrenaline rush. Your body gets the adrenaline, and then you either choose to fight or you run. And it kind of parallels extreme sports because you you the athletes that choose to participate in extreme sports have taken that adrenaline rush and that stress response, which is a response to a negative situation, and applied it to a positive situation. So we've kind of changed the brain chemistry from when we had to use it to defend ourselves and stay alive to now applying it to something that gives us joy and happiness, which is really interesting how we've kind of, because we from this time to right now has not been long enough for us to allow our bodies to adjust to this life. We've gone so quickly from pretty much this to now having phones and computers and all that we are just genetically still here pretty much. And so taking those reflexes and those responses and applying them to a different setting, it allows us to kind of evolve faster. So arguably some of the most subdued people in this world are kids, and they are expected to sit and be quiet and listen all day long, and they they sometimes are allowed after school to go and participate in sports like football or basketball or baseball. And the difference between those and extreme sports is that just like school, they're very regimented. I remember I played soccer as a kid, and you stand in the line, you be quiet, and you follow the team, and you get to play, you get to have fun, but it's very restricted, and I feel that doesn't allow kids to explore their extent of their bodies and their minds to the full extent, which, unlike action sports, they do. When I was a little kid, I was allowed to go and ride my bike all around the woods and hurt myself and run my limits. And I really appreciated that because it felt like I could test myself and I wasn't being tested, which was really beneficial to my growth and my development. And that kind of helped me gain my passion because I knew that when I was on my bike or I was on my skis, that no one could tell me to slow down or not go anywhere. I was just free, and I really appreciated that. And I think that the chance for kids to experience something like that is really important. It can be life changing. Um, so another reason that kids, I think, should be more introduced towards extreme sports over traditional sports is the culture is much more relaxed. There's not fighting for positions on teams. You're not fighting for scholarships. You're not fighting for scouts to look at you. You're just having fun, and the culture supports that. Um, I know, especially even in professional extreme sports, especially in mountain biking, most of the competitions are put together by the athletes just to be with their friends and have fun. They aren't winning a bunch of money. They aren't trying to win titles or anything. They just want to go and have fun. And I think that is extremely healthy for kids because they can express themselves and get out and do what they want, but they don't have to be forced into a box where they feel like they need to succeed or that they aren't good enough. Um, so, along with the culture is the mental health. And this is a graph of, so these are all just different disciplines of kind of sports. And down at the end here is high risk sports, so extreme sports. There's pretty clearly a big digression of, the graph is like negative mental health reports by capita. So like depression, suicide, or just like negative mental health issues. And when I saw this, it was at like the start of my research, and I thought that this was super interesting because there really is a big difference. It's like it's the second lowest genre of sports that have the lowest mental health rates. And I wanted to know just why this graph looks like this. And so I looked around and I tried to find all these reasons. To be honest, nobody knows 100%. Nobody has tested why these people who push themselves so hard and pretty much to the brink of life perform so well in stress tests and general mental health. But what I did find was a couple good reasons. And the first one being, with such risky sports, you can express yourself in a way that are unlike others. You say, like, you see racket sports. Racket sports are, I mean, tennis gets a little heated, but it's not that crazy. And you aren't risking your life playing tennis. Unlike something like base jumping or something, where you are putting your entire life on the line and you have a closer connection to life and death. You can kind of process things through that. You can process what is important. I know it's particularly for me, something that always comes to mind is how I deal with fear. And one thing that I think of all the time when I'm especially about to do something new on my bike or my skis is that I think, if I don't land this, I could break my arm, and that's scary. But what's also scary is coming up here and doing a TED Talk or a POL. And so I honestly compare how scary things are between physical pain and mental pain. So that's something really interesting that I found. Another reason that they've hypothesized is that, unlike team sports, you can kind of do it whenever, especially like biking. I know tons of people who every day will go and ride their bike because they have to. They need to get it done or it won't be right. That is something that's really cool. Is you can be by yourself. You can go into the mountains. You can do whatever you like, and you're not restricted by anything. I mean, if skiing's your thing, you're restricted by the weather. But I know people who live exclusively on the way top of mountains because all they want to do is ski and snowboard. That's what they do. That's what's healthy for them. And then the final reason being just the culture of sports in general. So these are three athletes. This is Brett Tippy, this is Richard Perman, this is Andre Leconte. They are all professional. These two are professional skiers, and he's a professional mountain biker. He's a professional mountain biker. And the thing that they all have in common is that they all, no matter where they go around the world, they can find somebody just like them. They can find somebody who wants to ski or bike, just be outside. That is what is really cool. Is there's a global community, because especially in the U.S. with like football, particularly with basketball and baseball, there's not really a global community surrounding those. It's pretty domestic, and that creates a kind of not nationalism, but nationalism for their sport. When people like these can go anywhere, be pretty much anywhere in the world and find something they like, which really helps because no matter where you are, you can find someone just like you. And being able to see someone like you is difficult in other sports because it's a lot about physical prowess and who's bigger and who looks the best and who has the endorsements. That's just not what it is in these kind of sports. It's about who you are and what you bring to the table, which is really cool. So pretty much uh, for the last 30 years that extreme sports have been in the somewhat mainstream, they've been kind of elitist. And how that has happened is it's just hard to, if you don't have the resources, it's hard to fly yourself to mountains or buy thousands of dollars of gear. And that has kind of put a harm on the culture. And so the culture's answer to that is this: the weekend warrior, which most of us pretty much are. Weekend warrior is somebody who comes out and they decide that on their free time, when they have a full time job, family, or whatever, in their free time, they're going to get out and do what they love. And that has kind of pushed the culture and the industry of all extreme sports in both directions. Things are nicer and more expensive, and things are nicer and less expensive. And that's really cool because it allows for more people to have positive experiences and be allowed to kind of explore what they want. Uh, so another way that the industry has kind of pushed this to be a more open and accepting uh, industry is with bike parks, things like it. So ski mountains in the summer have started committing to bike parks. They build bike trails. They're really, really focused on families. That's what I've noticed through all of my research, is that they focus on getting kids into bike parks and families and showing that you can participate in something like this and look like that. Uh, and it's possible for anybody. They will like rent you bikes and gear, anything that you want. They'll make you feel confident. That's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to inspire confidence, and I really appreciate that because I know, like when I was a little kid, if I could have gone and done something like this, that would have been so cool. If I was from the middle of Kansas and I went to go to the mountains and ride my bike on something that's bigger than I've ever seen, there's trees and mountains. That would 100% make me want to never leave. And I think that's super cool that they're allowing people to have that kind of experience. Um, so along with that is so with this, I really want to focus on inspiring kids because I was inspired by them and how they want to bring everybody in. Because for a while, in Alyssa's TED Talk, she talked about gatekeeping, and gatekeeping is kind of a big thing in extreme sports. We don't want new people in our thing taking up the trails or finding our spots. But I don't agree with that. And so this is kind of what inspired my action project. So at first, my plan was to take pictures like this where I would be recreating like vintage photos from Purgatory and ski mountains and then creating a book. And I just thought it'd be cool to have me and my friends have pictures of us skiing and biking and having fun. But it wasn't really much of an impact. And I wanted to have an impact. And I wanted to have an impact on kids. I wanted to inspire kids. And what I came up with was doing a clinic for preschoolers at my mom's school. So what I did is I took like 5 kids and I built this little obstacle course. And I drew it out with chalk and I had like a balance beam and I had a slide, slalom cones, and I put them on bikes and it was kind of an experiment. I didn't really know how it would go because they are so little. They're 3 to 5. So I didn't know what happened. But I'm really happy that I did it. And it might not have been the best, but I got really good info. And so I had them all go through the course. It was really interesting to see how they all would kind of think about it. They would take like different ways and like see how it was. And it was just a really interesting thing to watch. But then at the end, I asked them questions. I asked them things like, do you like doing things you're scared of? How does it feel when you're scared? What does it feel like when you do something that you've been scared of? And I got a lot of different answers. I got some that were like inspired and they wanted to have more. They wanted to push themselves, and I could see that. That was mostly the older kids. Some just wanted talking about their pants, but it was really interesting to see how they kind of thought of it and how they went through. And it inspired me because I knew if I was like these bikes I rode in preschool, and I knew if I had a teenager like me come and do that with me, I would be inspired. I want to do something like that. That's kind of what my point was. I wanted to leave them with something that they could look back on and think, that was fun. I wonder what else I can do. And with the questions, I wanted to have them think about, like, what am I scared of? Like, how can I push myself? Like, what what can I do to make myself less scared? And that was my goal. And I think in that way it was successful. I think if I would have probably, if they were a little bit older, it would have been more successful. But this definitely was a really cool thing to watch, and I really appreciated it. Um, yeah. So, yeah. So that was really cool to see. I got to kind of put myself in their place and see what I would see through their eyes, uh, which was really fun. And sorry. So all in all, it was pretty successful. I feel like I made an impact that I wanted, which was what I cared about, and that was what I really wanted to do. So in the future, I would like to do something like this with some older kids and just see what they would do. I'd also like to have different resources. I wanted to do something where they would like jump off something or like a little bit higher so they could have like a little bit of like roofier and but be able to be safe. And I just couldn't really work that out without hurting little kids. So I had to go with this, but it was good, and I'm really grateful for the experience. Yeah, thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk.